History of Russia. How to deal with this massive country, massive in size, large in population, with ever-changing kind of history. Do we find various constants in Russian history, ancient and modern, going through various systems, economic and social? How does Russia end up to where it is today? And what can history tell us about this particular country with its varied past? To speak of this country is to speak, first of all, geographically, of European Russia, as far as the Ural Mountains to the east, and then beyond the east into Siberia, massive thousands of miles into Asiatic Russia. Looking at any kind of map, and you see this landmass called Eurasia, and Europe being Russia being a major part of it. Early history of Russia shows various rulers of one kind or another, wars against the Mongols, pushing eastward further and further into Siberia for control of that area of the world. Christianity coming to Russia at a certain point in the form of Eastern Orthodoxy, and that Eastern Orthodox Church playing a significant role in early medieval and later Russian history for that matter. And we see eventual rulers coming to power, taking on the ancient Roman title of Caesar, translated into Tsar, or however it's spelled, CZAR or TSAR, which would be my preferred spelling, but obviously reminiscent of the ancient Roman emperors. Various kinds of infighting going on in terms of who shall rule. It is a violent past, the violence that we see in many such countries' history. Peasant uprisings periodically, on a large scale, violent in the uprising, extra violent in the put down of these uprisings. Some of these peasant leaders going into folklore in terms of the poor downtrodden peasant, which is very much a part of this rather melancholy history of this particular country. To jump forward to the early 1600s, for example, we see the beginning of the dynasty, the family rule that will last until the collapse of Tsardom in 1918 with its last Tsar. That is to say, the Romanoff Dynasty, starting with Michael Romanoff in the early 1600s. These various Tsars before and after the Romanovs come to power. Again, a legend of brutality, killing off relatives in terms of becoming a Tsar, with the names that are associated with that violence. Ivan the First, Ivan the Terrible, his nickname. Extraordinary kind of violence in that history. The opera by Mussorgsky, based on an old Tsar, Boris Godunov, in terms of the violent measures of coming to power. Long history of this kind of thing. As far as Europe was concerned, Russia remained to be seen as a backward country, as an Asiatic country, defined as barbarian in the minds of Europeans. Backward compared to whatever advances could be seen in Western Europe. The Tsar that tried to change that significantly was Peter I, Peter the Great. Here we're talking about the end of the 1600s and the beginning of the 1700s. Physically, incredibly imposing. Tall, 6'6", 6'7", big red beard. That is tall by any estimation today. Back then, he'd be looked at like a giant of some kind. Influenced by Europe. Trying to Europeanize Russia to a considerable degree. Bringing in craftsmen, bringing in trade from the West at an unprecedented level. Most importantly, perhaps, founding the city of St. Petersburg, a warm water port, hopefully, that will link Russia to a more advanced Europe. And he sets this stage of a relationship which will...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?